Hello and welcome to Forever Box and your good news story of the week. Rassie Erasmus and World Rugby, are they friends again? The Springbok coach definitely approving of what he's seeing coming from World Rugby, which makes a nice difference from the organisation that has previously banned him, and we has had clashes with regards to sort of kind of how they do things, and lots of directives and stuff have been quite pointed over the years towards Springbok coach, but there does seem to be a bit of middle ground with Rassie Erasmus giving them a seal of approval on Twitter, where he loves to stir the pot and to make his opinions known, and a bit of an amusing article, that's not an article itself, but the response to the article, basically confirming that the bomb squad is here to stay, and acknowledging as well that it's not just us that's currently sort of using the 6-2-7-1 split, but also France, where that maybe all of a sudden made a difference in terms of the attitude towards it. Lots of people suggesting it is, because at the end of the day, when it was just one team doing it, it's quite easy to go after the box and to say, it's being manipulated by a single side and stuff. But now when several teams start to use it and it's effective, then it becomes a bit more of a trend, and it becomes far harder to try and sort of stop. It does mean it's a little bit less sort of aimed at the Springboks. A lot of sometimes a bit of victim culture in terms of the feeling that World Rugby are out to get the box, and it doesn't help when you have lots of conversations about reducing the number of subs and reducing the way the bench has worked, because of the bomb squad effect, which has won us two World Cups. When you start to see laws where there are going to be fewer scrums, and you look at the Springbok having the best scrum in the world, you do start to think that certain laws definitely did seem to be a little bit anti-Springbok. However, the good news is that it looks like we will be able to continue using the bomb squad in its form, because they have come out yesterday, and an interview being given to The Guardian by World Rugby Chief Executive Alan Gilbin, saying that at this stage there is no evidence or proof that sort of the way the subs currently work at the moment give a unfair advantage and make it more dangerous, I think, was probably the more important point with regards to what's happening on the field. And as a result, there's no evidence from that point of view that would suggest a change is needed in the way that subs are used in rugby. He came out and said, we looked at it from a science medicine perspective. Was there a distinctive view that a bunch of fresh players coming on with 20 to 30 minutes to go is going to create a more injurious position? And the science said it's not the case. So there was no reason from that perspective to look at how he might do replacements differently. Ultimately, there are a lot of different ways to win a rugby match. And he's right. I think the big thing as well is the acknowledgement that there are different ways to win a match in terms of using your bench like this and using your bench slightly differently to what maybe other teams might do. And, I think the main thing is that South Africa are blessed with the incredible forward depth, and that's why they sort of turn to it and use it for their advantage. Now, France, for example, basically rebuilt themselves as a side on their forward dominance. You go back 10, 15 years ago, France were really, they've always been a very good kind of champagne rugby type of side, haven't they? And a bit of a hot and cold, and they had that incredible 2011 World Cup. Should have won it. And I think could have won it. Obviously lots of controversial, calls around that game, and lots of opinions about that. Thierry Dusautoir putting an absolute masterclass in that final. But since then, immediately after that, France weren't quite where they needed to be. Now, Fabien Galtier has turned them around. He's won 6 Nations with them, and he's done it on an incredible forward pack, which is the heaviest in the world. Like, Antonio being absolutely revolutionary in that sort of pack. You're now seeing, a Mefu and the sort of size of some of those French forwards. And all of a sudden, they're now deploying a 7-1 split. And World Rugby have basically come out and said that at this stage, there's no evidence to suggest that it is dangerous. And Rassie Erasmus has given his seal of approval, reposting the article and talking about how World Rugby finds no medical evidence to outlaw 7-1 bench splits, saying so lacquer, dropping the South African flag, dropping the French flag. And again, it's a bit of a non-issue, isn't it? And I'm just glad that that World Rugby see it as a bit of a non-issue right now, because there's a lot of conversation about it. World Rugby kind of didn't really weigh in about it. But Gregor Townsend's been very loud about it. Nigel Owens has been very loud about it. Matt Williams doesn't shut up about it. And World Rugby basically come out and said there's no evidence to suggest it's dangerous, which hopefully then means it's basically a conversation that's then kind of dead and buried. From that perspective, they might look at changing substitutes from a tactical point of view. Lots of people suggesting that maybe you should have 10 subs and be allowed to bring on 7, for example, and being able to sort of decide which 7 to bring. I quite like that suggestion. I think if we're going to change subs and we want to keep the game safe, you need to be able to bring on forwards or backline players. But if you want to bring on 8 forward players, for example, you want to bring on 6 backline players, that should be your prerogative. And, things do kind of change depending on who you bring in. And you'll see a far more tactical point of view with your subs than I think we currently see. And also, it's safer in terms of having to bring in an extra backline player or an extra forward player depending on injuries. So basically, it removes that sort of risk of naming different types of benches and gives far more options to the coaches. So I think that actually makes it safer and adds a really cool spice to it. So I'm quite in favor of that kind of suggestion. Whether it's reducing the number of subs, well, we have to wait and see. But that's a very interesting sort of compromise with regards to maybe reducing the amount of subs that come on, but whilst keeping it very safe in terms of being able to replace players in the right sort of positions and the likes of that. So Rassie Erasmus is a happy man, and as a result, a lot of South Africa will be happy. Do you think we'll see a 7-1 split this year? We'll see lots of 6-2s, but do you think we'll see a 7-1 split? Maybe in New Zealand, and maybe towards the end of the year against Ireland, for example. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. And I'll see you guys all very soon here on your dedicated Springbok channel, Forever Box, for some more Springbok and Rassie Erasmus updates.